Telemachus wandered back into the great hall with a new level of determination. The eyes of trained killers, thinly disguised beneath fake smiles, fastened upon young Telemachus as he strolled back in. Yet he was determined not to show his heart was playing the drums in his chest. He slid into his seat among the suitors, the sort who could turn a breach of etiquette into an excuse for bloodshed before you could say, "Mind your manners." Now and again, Telemachus would catch a look of pure hatred towards him, only for it to be replaced in a heartbeat with one of those insufferably polite smiles. All teeth, no warmth, like a wolf pretending to be a dinner guest. And yet, despite the very real danger sharpening the air, the young man's resolve sat within him, firm and unyielding. He knew precisely what had to be done. As he was carefully calculating the perfect moment to make his announcement, he noticed a subtle alteration in the air of the great hall, as if the very walls had just leaned in a little closer to eavesdrop. An uncommon hush had fallen over the great hall, for the bard was weaving a melody, sweet, solemn, and heavy with memory, a song of the Greeks and their harsh voyage home from Troy, of storms endured, men lost, and dreams crashed on foreign shores. But just as the tale was escalating towards a mournful climax, the bard hesitated. His keen musician's ear had caught something, a soft, unmistakable sound, a sigh, or rather, the muted sob that follows one. He turned. There, framed in the doorway that led to the women's quarters, stood a tall, regal figure. Her grace and presence was unmistakable. It was Penelope, mistress of the house, dignified even in sorrow. "Phemius," she asked, her voice as gentle as a hand on the cheek but edged with sorrow, "would you mind choosing another tale? These songs of grief are a daily reminder of the one whose absence gnaws at my heart, day and night. Poor Phemius, caught mid-performance like a child with his hand in the honey jar, stood in stricken silence. Words, so plentiful in his music, deserted him now. Eurymachus advanced with the faint curl of a sly smile playing at his lips. But Telemachus knew this was the moment upon which all else turned. Now or never. He raised his cup of wine. The hand that held it shook like a leaf in a storm, and took a measured sip. Then, drawing in a lungful of courage, he stepped forward to meet the challenge. "Mother," he said with a respectful but resolute tone, "do not criticize the bard for the sorrow his song awakens. He does not sing of these tales in bad spirit. No, he merely gives voice to the fates the gods have caused. It is not Phemius, but Zeus himself who deals out joy and suffering as he sees fit. To each of us our share." He paused, then gently reminded her, "You are not alone in your sorrow. Many noble women have suffered the same, the long, aching absence of a husband lost to war and sea. It is not unjust, it is the shape of things. I say he has made an excellent choice of song, and shall not be silenced." Penelope, hearing this unaccustomed assertion from her son, her boy, her child, now speaking with the cadence of command, looked at him with a mixture of curiosity, pride, and sorrow. What change had come over him? What manhood was this, emerging like a dawn over Ithaca's shores? But she had no time to ponder. A large crowd of greedy, hungry, and rude eyes stared at her, forcing her to retreat in silence. Dignified, though bruised, she turned and walked up the stairs to her room, that private hiding place for her painful memories. There she rested like a woman exhausted to the bone by mourning that would never truly end. And as the echoes of Phemius's mournful melody lingered in the air, tears returned to her eyes. Meanwhile, downstairs, Penelope's brief presence had done what strong wine could not. It had stimulated the suitors into yelling and screaming. Then Telemachus stood tall and raised his voice, not in boyish protest, but in full-throated declaration. "Enough!" he yelled, cutting through the commotion. "Let the bard play! And hear this, all of you. Tomorrow at dawn I summon you to the marketplace. We shall put an end to this perversion, this mockery of hospitality. I will not have my home turned into your playground any longer. I will speak your names to gods and men alike." The hall fell into a silence, as though the very air was holding its breath. Every eye fixed itself upon Telemachus, and you might very well have heard a pin drop. The atmosphere was as charged as the weather before a storm. From somewhere in the crowd, a hand moved towards the handle of a sword. Eurymachus, also known in taverns and whispering corners of Ithaca as the Snake, caught the movement. He turned his head and stared down upon the would-be swordsman with such frosty authority that it needed no translation. Their eyes locked in a silent duel, a wordless pact forming between them. The message was as clear as a trumpet call. One foolish movement and the hall would be painted red. The sword slid back into its sheath with a soft, almost apologetic sigh.
From among the mob rose Antinous, muscular, sharp-eyed, and exuding the smugness of a man quite unused to being challenged.
"Oh, bravo! Hear the young puppy bark," he mocked. "May the gods hasten the day Ithaca has you for a king." "I seek no crown," Telemachus replied, confidently, his voice cool as stone. "But I will be master in my own house," he roared aloud. Seated with a certain air of lazy entitlement beside the cocky Antinous was Eurymachus, less overtly rude but no less poisonous. If Antinous was the clenched fist of the gang, the Snake was the velvet glove, smooth, silver-tongued, and soaked in the cologne of self-interest. His words slivered ahead, polished and plausible, with just enough honey to mask the venom.
"Well spoken, Telemachus," he whispered, every word soaked in greasy flattery.
"No one would dare challenge your rights here, far be it from us. But please excuse my slight curiosity. This stranger who graced us so briefly, quite a noble presence, I must say. Why did he make such a sudden exit? He seemed to be about to say something significant. Had he perhaps some whisper of news regarding your noble father?" Telemachus answered with quiet heaviness. "There is no news," he said, and the tiredness in his voice was the echo of 100 unanswered prayers. "Only the silence of the sea. The man you saw was Mentes, a friend of my father, and prince among the Taphians." At the mention of Mentes, a ripple passed through the hall. Heads turned. Shoulders leaned towards neighbors. Lips began moving. The air itself seemed to hum, as though the very walls were whispering the name. By now the sun had gone, and the sky was turning a deep purple, the kind that makes you feel both calm and uneasy at the same time. The suitors finally stumbled off to their rooms, noisy as ever, laughing too loudly, leaving the hall stinking of spilled wine and their own arrogance. Telemachus climbed the narrow stairs to his small chamber, tucked away from the rest of the house. It wasn't grand, but it was his. Waiting for him there was Eurycleia, the old nurse who had cared for him since he was a baby. Her hands had once wrapped him in blankets, and now, with the same care, she prepared his bed for the night. But sleep wouldn't come. It was like waiting for a guest who never shows up. His mind kept racing, thoughts buzzing like angry bees. He lay on his back, staring up into the shadows of the rafters, and in the dim light they almost looked like strange constellations, stars that seemed to whisper their own secret stories, just out of reach.